Good Wednesday evening, everybody. You know, if you're seeing this face, we are RAMP, Real Access Motivates Progress, live Wednesday night podcast. We are so glad that you chose to join us all tonight. And as I always say, do we have a great show for you right before the holidays? We are talking everything AARP advocacy and how you can get involved. So I would like to take no time in introducing all of my guests tonight. Welcome to the show, everybody.
Thank you.
Hey, Tina.
Thank you.
I am so excited to talk to all of you tonight. So the first thing I'd like you all to do is introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do. Matt, we're going to start with you.
Great. Thanks, Tina. I'm Matt Netto. I'm the Associate State Director for Advocacy for AARP Rhode Island.
Shirley, how about you go next?
I'm Shirley Harris, and I'm a volunteer with AARP Rhode Island.
And Dan?
Hi, I'm Dan Lipperini. I'm a volunteer also with AARP Rhode Island.
Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about what the volunteer and the advocacy team does for AARP?
So really the advocacy team is the branch that helps us advocate at the State House and in local communities for a variety of different issues that impact older Rhode Islanders. So we meet regularly. We provide testimony at the State House. We drive petitions when the time calls for it. We also work to build relationships with our legislators at the local level, municipal level, and at the state level as well.
That sounds great. And Shirley, why did you get involved with AARP? Why was this important for you?
Well, when I retired, I needed something to do, and I have been really a volunteer all my life. I realized I had started when I was a brownie, and that was just in my hometown in Connecticut. That's what you did. You volunteered. You gave something back. So when I retired, I really wanted to get involved in something as an investment. And I see it as an investment in the elderly, the aging population, and the future. People today will be aging, and they will be wanting all the things we do for AARP. And I also host several Zoom programs like Healthy Cooking, Tai Chi, Master Gardener's program from URI, and a dance program. And it is all aimed towards a healthy living and towards an older population.
Well, that's great. I'm not getting older, I'm getting better. So, we're gonna go with that. So, but Dan, tell us why you chose to volunteer your time with AARP.
Well, I had been retired for a few years, and in my work job, I actually did a lot of things that I thought helped make a difference for the customers of my company. And I just felt the lack of that kind of involvement. And when I joined AARP, it was on the advocacy side where we went to the State House and did some stuff, legislative activities and lobbying. But I discovered there was much, much more to AARP than just the legislative side, which I find very interesting. But we also have, as Shirley mentioned, what she does. We also do look at the community, and every year AARP nationally and working with each state looks at different programs that people need help for funding. And every year we have a group of people that review those programs and decide which ones we want to recommend to AARP National. This past year, we got 4 different programs funded in the state of Rhode Island. And that just means, I think, making a difference in your community is what it's all about. And that's why I do it.
Yeah. Well, this year I became an AARP member, sadly. But I love AARP, but I didn't want to get to that point. I fought it to the last second. I told Catherine she could not have my application until midnight when I turned 50, so she had to wait. But I did join, and I'll tell you, I not only joined as a member, but I've also joined the Monday morning 10 a.m. advocacy team group with all of you, with Matt at the helm, and I love my Monday morning 10 o'clock meetings and seeing all of you. Matt, tell people how they can get involved and why they should get involved.
Yeah, you can get involved. Just contact myself or Dan, Shirley. We'll give out all our contact before this night's over. But the reason you should is because it's exciting. It's fun. I do it for a living, and one of the best parts is being able to get other people involved in the process and seeing that their voice does matter. And that's what you can do when you're with us. We don't win on everything we work on. We're in it for the long haul, and we understand that it's a multi-step process. And we talk our way through it every single Monday. We talk through issues. I mean, half the meeting we see how each other's doing, how the weekend was too. So it's a great group to be a part of. It's grown pretty well over the past year or so. And we stay active. We definitely have an agenda every week, but we like to have fun too. So you can get involved. You can call me at 401-248-2660. It's the office number. Or you can reach me by email at mnetto@aarp.org. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Shirley, talk about some of the time restraints that somebody would have, like if they were looking into being part of our group. And let me tell you, I've met the most wonderful people who advocate for some of the things that I am near and dear to my heart, things that affect me in the disability community as well as the aging population. So to me, it was just a win-win all the way around, because now I'm working with other advocates that have the same causes that I have. But tell everybody what some of the time restraints are, so that way that they don't feel so overwhelmed.
Well, you can, if you volunteer, you can put in an hour and help with a program. Now that we're out in person again, we will be having tables at some events. You could actually work a table for us. Or you can put in a 40-hour week. We have so many programs, but I do have 2 websites I can give you. And one is to check out the offerings on our virtual community center. And that's www.aarp.org/VCC. And then if you wanted to check out the healthy cooking demonstrations or other events, you can see ones we've done in the past. And that's our replay page, and that's www.aarp.org/RI replays. So it's really, people can get as involved as they'd like to, and they may find different things that we do that interest them. So we try to match up people with the niche that they want to be in.
Yeah, I thought I was just joining for the 1 hour Monday morning, figuring it out. And yeah, that turned out into a lot more than that.
Didn't happen. Well,
you join
to be working with
they keep you for 40, but it's so much fun and relaxing, because like I said, you meet amazing people like the 3 of you, as well as meeting other Rhode Islanders throughout the state of Rhode Island who are near and dear to you, who you're going to be there at some point. Well, if you're not, your parents, your grandparents, or whatever are going to get up there. So why not know the information now, or advocate for what your wants will be when you get there? It's so important for people to volunteer. Dan, what are some of the best things that you like to volunteer and do? What are some of the programs that you're volunteering?
Well, like I said, I really enjoy the legislative side and trying to craft what we're planning on doing this coming year. But what I found interesting is trying to get other people involved that I know. So last year we had some different bills that we were pushing, and I play basketball with a group of people. I play senior softball with people who are AARP members. And I talked to them a little bit about bills that we're looking at. And a lot of times I'll write to my senators and reps and I'll send them copies of that. And a lot of them are very interested. Like, yeah, I like that bill. I never knew how to get involved before. So just getting people involved in what's happening in our state, in our community, I think is pretty important. I like that a lot. The other thing is just being able to pick out some areas of interest. For example, Matt and his group have formed different teams. So we have a fraud team, and the fraud team looks at things like what's happening to elder in terms of fraud scams. That working nationally with AARP has developed a speakers bureau, and we have people who are trained to go out and talk about fraud, home care, and brain health. And when we do that, we need members to come and maybe sit at a table and check people in when they come in, pass out some of the goodies that we pass out to people at these meetings. So they can speak if they want to, but they don't have to. Just help the speaker do the presentation. So there's things like that to do. Matt, we forming a housing team. We're forming a team to look at the cost of prescription drugs. So there's a lot of different areas you can get involved in if you really want to do it. And it could be as easy as saying, I want to write a letter to my senator or rep on bills that interest me, and we can inform them of what those are. That's what Matt's Monday meeting does. Or it could be, as Shirley said, going out to an event like what we used to do, the Rhode Island Home Show, and man a table for a few hours.
I like the home show. I get to be the host every year, and I get to roll around and talk to
Nice.
everybody. So I like talking to everybody because I'm very shy.
Yeah.
So it gets me out of my shell. We all know that's not true, but it's all good. Matt, tell everybody, talk us through what it's like to go into the legislation room and to testify and stuff, to take that mystery off the table for those who may be a little, nervous about doing so.
Yeah, it's a conversation. Your reps and senators, it's 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. Many of them have worked a full day, had other jobs, and they're coming there, and they need the information. They want the information. You're not going there. You're not going to bother them by testifying. They look forward to the testimony. They really take a lot out of it, and we try to make it accessible to do it. You'll see once on Monday morning calls, once the session hits, we'll look on Monday morning at a bunch of different bills that are going to be heard that week, and we'll go over different statistics that we know about those bills and those issues in particular. And we'll talk about what our testimony should be when we go, or if we are submitting written testimony as well. So we really do it as kind of a group collaboration to make sure that we're all comfortable with what we're going to say and who's going to say it. And once you get in there, you'll see a lot of smiles. You definitely do. People are always happy to see advocates come in, especially AARP advocates, because there's people like Shirley and Dan, and who can resist that Shirley smile?
You're a charm, Matt.
Why, thank you, Shirley. Why, thank you. So so like I said, we try to make it accessible. It's not like if you want to do it, we're just going to be like, oh, there you go on in. We'll talk it through. We'll talk through concerns. We can even do practice runs. But when you get in there, it really is a conversation. And what you need to realize is they need to hear from you. The more voices they hear from, the bigger impact it has. So without hearing from people, and without hearing your voice, they don't know where you stand on an issue. And when they do hear it, believe me, it will impact the vote. It does.
I mean, we vote our House and senators in. We need to go and give them the voice of what we want them to do. It's not just go vote and let them be on their own. This is our chance to guide them along the way, to keep them on the same path that we're at. So, having your voice out there, they put their pants on one leg at a time like we do. Well, I do mine 2 legs because, that's just what you do in a wheelchair. But, it's not scary at all. And you can go and watch some testimony before you actually testify on a bill. You can go down and you can watch it. You can turn on Capitol TV and you can watch testimony on TV. So it takes all the mystery out of what it is that you're going to be doing. But I'll tell you, testifying and being there for the important things that you're going to need someday, like Shirley says, we're all aging, that you're going to need someday, is empowering. And it gives you a voice that we need so importantly. But next, I'm going to put Shirley on the spot, because we all know that Shirley is now a celebrity. Shirley was just honored to the AARP Top Volunteer Award in the country. Each state does it, and Shirley won it for Rhode Island. She won the Andrews Award. Shirley, tell us a little bit about it and what it meant to you to win that award.
Well, Percy Andrews was the founder of AARP. And she was a retired teacher. And that's how AARP started, was as for retired teachers. And then it grew. So now it's for retirees or not retirees, because people aren't retiring until they're in their 70s. So I I just kept getting more and more involved in all the programs. And when COVID came, we did a lot of Zoom programs. And so I volunteered to be a Zoom tech. And being, you don't do things for awards. So when I got nominated, I was just, I don't know, speechless, because I was in awe of the other people who had received it. I never thought myself at their level. So it was really overwhelming, I have to say. And I'm just coming down off the high. I'll admit it, because there was a ceremony on Friday, and it's just amazing. I just think AARP is such an incredible organization where we can give back, we can do things for the future, we can help people. And I'm going to throw in, I'm going to segue, Matt, to our federal liaison team. And that is a team that we are starting up, working with our national delegation. So, it begins at home, but it depends on your needs. And we're looking forward to working with those offices, with the delegates and their staff. And I think AARP does just so much important work, and they've changed so many lives. They've helped so many people. And so being awarded, being recognized for that, you always feel good when you're recognized for something you do. So
Well,
here I
well,
am.
it's so well deserved, Shirley. I mean, I couldn't think of anybody that didn't deserve it other than you this year. I mean, you're just a phenomenal person. And like Matt said, you got that beautiful smile. So, we all had to see that beautiful smile up there. But it's so true. You start at home, you start in your state, and then you work at the federal level. And, being involved with our federal delegation is so important. Dan, can you tell us a little bit about some of the first times that you testified, what you went through? I'm trying to let everybody know, like, how to gear up to being a volunteer and what it's like to be part of this.
Sure. And I have to say one thing about Shirley. She has a great smile, but we had to keep telling her not to cry when she started talking about when she understood she won the award. But and I think it's important to clarify when we lobby versus when we testify. So generally, I got involved starting with the lobbying effort, where we would meet at the AARP headquarters, and there was a sizable group of us, and we would talk about what the bills were that were being considered. Generally, it would be one bill, might be two, and who was in the committee that we wanted to get to over at the state, either representatives or senators, which ones we wanted to see. And each volunteer had targets. And we wanted to get over there and find those people who were on the committees that were going to affect that bill. And so the first thing we all did was made sure we all wore our red shirts. And then we got the information, got in a bus, got dropped off at the State House, and walked in. The first time I remember walking in, I was like, wow, this is a big building, and there's lots of stairs, and there's two big rooms, one for the representatives and one for the Senate chambers. And we'd pick one out. Sometimes we'd split the group to each of the rooms. But when those people, when our representatives saw us coming in, and they saw 15 or 20 or 30 sometimes red shirts walking in, they knew AARP was there, and they were very interested in hearing what we had to say. And most of it was just the information we had with some talking points and dropping some information off with them that they could keep, and talking about how important that particular bill was to us. And so that was a big piece of the lobbying side. And there were a lot of people in there lobbying. You had a lot of different groups in there. But I'll tell you what, the red shirts outnumbered every other group. I think sometimes every other group combined. And they knew we weren't paid lobbyists. They knew we were volunteers. They knew we were voters. And as many of them told me, we listen to you because we know you vote. The other
And
piece,
that,
yeah,
yeah,
go
I
ahead.
mean, that is so true. But I mean, that is so true that we are a volunteer group. We aren't paid to be there, and we are the voters. So we're actually the voices in Rhode Island that they need to listen to. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dan, but I just wanted to make sure that people understood that, we do this because we believe in what we can change in Rhode Island.
Mhm.
And we are nonpartisan.
Correct. We go for issues. We don't go for political parties. AARP as an organization doesn't actually even donate money. So it's kind of like, why do they listen to us? They listen to us because we're a big organization with a lot of members, and we vote in a very high proportion relative to our population. So the advocacy and the lobbying takes place like that with the different bills. Testifying is a different thing, and usually, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but at least from what I see, usually we do it in front of committees. So there'll be committee considering a bill that they're going to vote on. They're going to decide whether to pass that out to the either the House or the Senate to actually have a broader vote on it. And what you find in these committees when you're testifying is you find individuals like us, just citizens testifying, but you also have paid lobbyists. And what I noticed when I did testifying is the paid lobbyists had a pretty slick presentation with what they did. They had a lot of facts and figures. But what the representatives and senators paid a lot of attention to was individual citizens in the state of Rhode Island who got up and talked about their story. I did some testifying on the prescription drug issue a number of years ago and how important that was. And we had our volunteers standing up in front saying, this is what it means to me. This is what I can afford. This is how much I have to pay. And this is what impact it has on me as an individual. And that really was huge impact on the representatives and senators. And it makes you feel good when you actually have that.
Yeah, and it's so true. You don't need to know a lot of facts and figures and statistics and remember all of that. You need to talk from the heart. You need to talk about how it affects you and your family. And you just need to be honest and tell them the truth. They're going to pay way more attention to that than anything else, because I'll tell you, if you get a bunch of people up there giving facts and statistics, they're falling asleep at the front. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear you. They want to hear from you.
Yep.
Matt, let's get into the nitty gritty now. Let's talk about some of the top bills that we're going to be looking at in the next year.
Yeah. So it's we work on such a variety of different bills and issues. Last year we were very active in the housing space, specifically with accessory dwelling units. This year, I'm sure we're going to be in that space once again. There's always more improvement to be made on the accessory dwelling unit bill, so we'd definitely be looking at that again. And then there's a bunch of different bills that are going to come out. There's a package coming out from the Land Use Commission of bills that we're hearing. I haven't seen any of them yet, but they all have to do with addressing the housing crisis, which is definitely one of the top issues that concern us here in Rhode Island. And the reason it concerns us is because the cost of everything is going up. The cost of housing, the cost of taxes, the property taxes, the insurance costs are going up, and many older Rhode Islanders are living on Social Security checks, and they don't always get an increase that falls in line with the rate of inflation. So what that could do is put strain on someone's budget. And if they don't have retirement savings and Social Security is their only source of income, that puts their housing status at risk. So we feel like housing is something that needs to be addressed for our older population. They need more appropriate housing choices, whether it's to remain at home through accessory dwelling units, community supports and services. There's a bunch of different programs throughout the country that are working on not congregate type settings, but congregate as well, but like neighborhood type programs where a full neighborhood can be age friendly and work together. So it's really exciting. Like I said, we haven't seen any bills get introduced yet. We know accessory dwelling units will be on the table for us to work on, and there's going to be a bunch of other housing issues, some tenant protection issues that we'll definitely be looking at. Besides that, There is one bill from last year that we were very a big advocate for, and that was a bill that would give a 20% extra reimbursement rate for nursing homes that offer single occupancy rooms with private bathrooms. Um, the nursing home industry agrees overall that yes, single rooms would be ideal. It would be much better for like forbid there was another pandemic, infection control and yeah, actually even just dignity. You live your whole life and you want to have some space and some privacy as you age. And nursing homes agree and we agree, but they need to be incentivized. There has to be a way for them to get the money to transform these nursing homes into single occupancy. So that's what this bill would do, is give them a 20% reimbursement hike in rate for the single rooms. So that's another one that we'll be working on. One of the big ones we're going to work on this year is what's called Secure Choice, the Secure Choice Bill. It is a retirement savings program for employees that work for employers that don't offer retirement savings programs. So if you work a job, you may love your job, but there's no retirement savings options there. You can't, there's no automatic payroll deduction for an IRA or something like that, or 401k. So what this program would do is it would be a state program ran out of the treasurer's office, and they would work with private financial advisors that they would contract with, and to give an array of investment options. And Rhode Islanders, even if your employer doesn't offer you retirement savings, would be able to take advantage of this program and start saving for retirement through while you work at any age. So in retirement, it's you do it to have a cushion, and Social Security was not invented for people to just live off as itself. So the more people can save for retirement, the better. And we think everyone should have the right to do so as easily as possible. There are 172,000 Rhode Islanders right now working that don't have access to a retirement savings program through their employer.
Yeah, that's
I can
scary.
I can keep going if you want. I got a bunch of them.
Yeah, you do. I have a question for you though. I just got a question from our live audience. They want you to explain what an accessory dwelling unit is, which is also known as an ADU. So if you could break that down for those who, I love this community that we give all of these acronyms to everything, and I'm dyslexic, so I never know what organization I'm part of or where I'm going because I never get the letters in the right order. So yeah, if you could break that down for us.
Yeah, definitely. In-law apartments, granny flats, they call them. There's a English something. There's an English name for it too. So it's a lot of them. You'll see them in basements a lot of the times, because up until this year, Rhode Island as a state didn't allow them to be detached from the main house. If you remember back to Happy Days back in the day, the Fonz lived up above the attic. And that was the garage. That's what I mean. I was thinking something else, but the garage. He lived above the garage. So it's not a new concept. It has been around for many, many, many years. They were very, very popular prior to World War II. They had them everywhere, and slowly since World War II, for many different reasons, the single family zoning popped up and prohibited them in most areas. And it's been probably, in the last 20-30 years, there's been a real push to bring them back, because they do help people age in place, and they do give older people the option to stay at home as they age, instead of maybe when they have a little bit of mobility issues, they have to go somewhere else if they don't want to.
I was just gonna say that how accessible is that flight of stairs up or that flight of stairs down for somebody like me? Well, you'll be dragging me up and down because I won't be doing those stairs at any time soon. So, the accessory dwelling unit makes it where it's a accessible dwelling unit that's safe and secure on the first floor mostly, but it's accessible housing is very, very important, especially to our aging population, which a lot of them end up using a walker, wheelchair, or cane either temporarily or permanently. So if we're not talking about accessible housing, we're not talking about anything. Shirley, I have a question from you from our audience. They would like to know where you think that they should start in volunteering with AARP.
Well, they should contact one of us and we can find out what their interests are. And then maybe we can have them shadow or help us with one of the Zoom programs. Or if they wanted to be out in person, you know, we need to find out what their interests are. And then we'd be happy to talk to them. I can give you my email address, and it's Harris, HARRISS 668 @gmail.com. And you can just email me and I'd be happy to find out where your interests are. If it's advocacy, so, you know, and listening to Dan and Matt, when you go to the State House, you don't always have to lobby. You don't always have to testify. Sometimes, and especially as for new volunteers, you just go and observe. But it's also the power of numbers. So,
Yeah.
you know, when whatever people are interested in, we keep adding programs. It's just amazing. And we do have a speakers bureau where people go out, and we need people to not just go speak, but again, as Dan said, to go and check people in, hand out whatever information we might have. And that's how you learn a lot too. I didn't join AARP and all of a sudden start speaking to anybody. I was kind of the quiet person in the room for several months, and because I was overwhelmed by all these people and what they did, and I'm thinking, wow, how did they learn how to do all that? You just do.
Yeah. I'm going to handle the first part of this next question, and then I'm going to let Matt take over the second half, because the question is the State House accessible? Can I go in my wheelchair? Well, let me tell you, I'm in the State House at least 4 times a week during session because I like to go meet and greet everybody. So there is a way in. It is accessible. I mean, there's only one way in and one way out at the moment, but the bathrooms are accessible. You can get in to all the rooms, and you can get around on the floors with the elevators and stuff like that. The second part to this question is, does AARP does things that are accessible? So if I was to become a volunteer, would it be accessible to me in my wheelchair?
Yes, of course, we can make those accommodations. You know, our office is completely accessible on Ted Orm Street in downtown Providence. We work, you know, with older volunteers for the most part, and they have a wider range of mobility, and you know, it's something that we constantly have to consider when planning things, or when working the logistics of it. And the State House, like you said, there is one way, but if you don't know that one way, it's a little difficult.
Well, that's okay, because maybe one of these days I'll give a wheelchair tour of the State House of how to get around. And I wouldn't be working with AARP if they weren't accessible, because I would be on their back until they were accessible for me to be part of it. So Matt knows that he has to be accessible, and I'll tell you, he's usually ahead of it before I even ask. So, but I just wanted you to hear it from him instead of me. So Dan, this next question is for you. Could somebody get in touch with you to shadow you about lobbying and getting in touch with the legislation and how it all works?
Oh, definitely. Either phone me at 401-639-2010. That's my cell phone. You could text me there too, and I'll get back to you. Or my email is, if you look up there, it's D, and then my last name, Lipperini, 52, which is the year I was born. Not 1852, but 1952, and at yahoo.com. So it's pretty easy. dlipperini52 at yahoo.com. And I'm pretty good at answering emails, answering texts. And it's something you can easily do with us. The legislative session will start in January, and probably March or so, we're going to start going over to the State House. So initially, we kind of review the bills and decide which ones we want to push, and who we want to work with, and what has a chance of going forward this year, and what just needs more education. So there's some bills it takes a little while to get them through. It's not just, hey, here are all these bills, let's get them through this year. It's here are all these bills, which ones do we have a good sponsor for? Which ones have the chance to get through? The other ones we start educating and just making sure people understand what's going on and kind of build that momentum up for the following year. But yeah, anytime somebody wants to go along with us, I'll be glad to do it. I only started doing this in 2016. So it was a little overwhelming at first, as Shirley said. Now, I know you don't believe Shirley was actually quiet for all that long, but I was. But after a while, you kind of learn what you need to do and what makes an impact. And again, your representatives and senators want to hear from you. They don't. They hear from the lobbyists who get paid. They want to hear from their constituents. I did want to mention a couple of things. Matt had mentioned the ADUs, the accessory dwelling units, and you had mentioned accessibility. And one of the things we got put through probably 3 years ago was home modification tax credits. So an individual who needs to have their home modified in order to be able to get around, whether it's a walk-in tub, whether it's a ramp, a chairlift going up the stairs. The program was set up several years ago where you can apply to the state and you get back up 50% of what that modification costs as a tax credit, up to $5,000. And it originally started with, I think, about $500,000. I think now in the last budget, it was up to $1 million within the state fund. And that gets used by a lot of people who are aware of it. So that's one of the things that even in the ADU might be on the second floor, people can still get to it with the home modification credit.
And just a quick tag on to that, that is run through the Governor's Commission on Disability. I am the vice chair of that. So if you want more information on that, you can let me know, because I am a big fan of that and I promote it. So if you want to know more about that, just reach out to me and I can help you out. Dan, and the other one that you wanted to mention?
What was the other one? Oh yeah. So we were working on what we call the mother-in-law units, the ADUs, and we had our team there on the Monday morning meeting, and Matt was actually very helpful to one person who wanted to sell her house and move in with her son and his wife and have a unit there. But that person was running into a lot of issues with the town planners and the people who had to give permission to that. And actually, Matt ended up having to know the town planner and was able to get them in contact with the right person to get their ADU approved. But that's why we wanted to pass the law across the state that had some standardization. And it's not just for, in-laws moving in, or, a child wants to move back and have their own place. We need a lot of affordable housing for visiting nurses, because right now when visiting nurses come here, it's just too expensive for them to be able to come to Rhode Island and help out on a temporary basis or even a little bit longer term basis. And the ADUs actually help each of the communities because they're part of affordable housing, which is very important to the communities. They have to, there's a goal of having at least 10% affordable housing, and an accessory dwelling unit will actually fit that definition.
Yeah, that is so perfect. And one thing that I want to point out, another reason why you should be part of AARP, because you get to know everybody. Trust me, you get to meet everybody that you need to know in this state for anything that you possibly know. Our motto in Rhode Island, or our untold motto, is everybody knows a guy. With AARP, that is so true, because no matter what you need, there's somebody at AARP that knows a guy that can help you out. And Matt is probably the guy that knows more than one guy or girl that can help you out. So there's just another reason why you should join AARP, because everybody knows a guy. And Matt, he's hiding down there.
I think
Matt, tell everybody why. Go ahead, Shirley.
I think that's 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah. I think it's 2 degrees here.
Yeah.
But Matt, tell everybody, what are some of the first steps in introducing themselves to their own city or town people?
Is just literally show up. I think, those that have an impact are those that show up. So, and you don't have, that doesn't mean you have to stomp into your mayor's office or you got to charge up onto Smith Hill. It means put a phone call in, and you don't need an agenda. Introduce yourself. You don't have to call with a problem. You can call and just ask them what their priorities are. You elected them. Call them, ask them. They like to meet their constituents.
Go to a meeting.
Go to a meeting, go to a town meeting. You don't have to say anything, just sit there,
Yep.
just listen. You know, and if you show up more than once, believe me, someone's going to ask you who you are, and so they'll ask you. But the main thing is showing up, and it can be a letter. You know, we testify with written testimony all the time. You don't have to go to the State House. You can testify in writing. You can send a physical letter. You can send an email to your representative or your senator or your mayor or whoever. Go to your town website or call town hall. They'll put you right through.
Yeah.
You know, you're the one that votes them in. So it's very important for them to listen to you. And in my experience, you know, all the municipalities, all the senators and reps, I've never seen one that say, no, I'm not talking to anyone. Like, I haven't seen that. You know, that they're all good people from what I see, and it's really not intimidating. Just go in and just have a conversation, meet somebody, a new friend.
Yeah, and I will tell you, we have an AARP member who does this flawlessly. Her name is Heidi Ross. I'll tell you, I think she's met everybody and their brother, because every time I talk to Heidi, she's like, I've already been in there. I've already been in there. But I will say to everybody, go in with a positive attitude. Don't go in confrontational. Do not go in ready to, you know, put your back up against the wall. Go in with an open mind and an idea that your perspective may change. Go in with a positive attitude. The saying is true. You will catch more bees with honey than you will with anything else. So go in with a positive attitude. Shirley, what's some advice you can give?
Well, I think you can go in and ask for help a lot of times. I'm always amazed at what all these people in power, in positions of power, are willing to do to help the constituents. Don't be afraid to ask for help, or don't be afraid to step up. You just have to listen, and then you all of a sudden you find yourself involved in something. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Dan, what's your advice?
Well, I just recently wrote to my representative I sent her an email because she got reelected, and I congratulated her for it. And I asked her if she had a little bit of time to spend with me to tell me what she was looking forward to doing next year. And I wanted to give her some indication of what things I'd like to see done in the state of Rhode Island. And next thing I know, she had an email back to me saying, how about meeting at coffee shop on this date, what time would work? And we sat down for an hour, and just she shared with me what she wanted to do. It was just like, we had coffee, we had a nice little talk. She's actually a school teacher for most of the day, but then she goes and becomes our state rep after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And she was willing to spend an hour with me just talking about what she wanted to do and what she liked working with us. And she was very interested in understanding not just what AARP wanted to do, but what I thought we should do in the state. And I thought it was a great meeting. I have a note out to my senator to ask her the same thing. And if she writes back to me, that's great for that. You know, it's not a big deal, but having the face-to-face was nice. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
They're great. I mean, my last pointer that I would give everybody is, if you have a problem, have a couple of solutions. They may not work, but have some ideas. You are going to get a lot further if you just go in with saying, hey, I think maybe we could do something like this, or maybe we could do something like this. Have some kind of idea. Like I said, it may not work, but at least if they know you're thinking it through and you're trying to help them solve the problem, your issue is going to move up the ladder a lot faster. Matt, did we miss anything tonight? Did we not touch upon something that we need to talk about?
Well, you know, during the session, an easy way to kind of keep track of what we're up to is going to be a website. So we have a www.aarp.org/RI notes, RINOTES. And on that page, we like to do at least once a week, if we can, an update with, what we've been up to, what we've been testifying on recently, what issues we're working on. Um, and this year we're actually starting to play around with the idea of on Monday mornings, when we have our meetings, we lay out the week ahead, and we're looking to put the week ahead document on that website every Monday too. So we just want to make it as accessible for everyone, and that's really what our goal is to get as many people involved as possible. And if you're intimidated, we can help you with that. We have a lot of people that were intimidated at first. And if you just want to do a little bit and do written testimony, you can do that. There's a million different ways to get involved, but really the main thing is to get involved. And one thing I will say too is, if there's a bill that you're interested in, you can bring it to the Monday table and we can talk about it there. And you don't always have to go with what AARP, like, yes, we have an AARP meeting and these are our priorities and this is what we're working on. But what's just as important to us is that you have your own voice and you're an advocate for yourself as well as others. And so it doesn't, so we really look to educate people and help empower them to have the confidence. And really, that's what it all really takes, is the confidence, just to go up there, confidence and will, to either send a letter, make that call, or go and see them in person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because if nothing else, AARP will guide you on how to help with that. If they're not sponsoring it already or backing it already, they can help you guide how you can keep moving that forward. Shirley, you had something to say?
Well, I was going to say, it doesn't have to be your own rep either. I was at the State House and saw someone from, well, I don't, from my past, someone I had had a connection to in the past. And we looked at each other and we reminisced. It was hugs and kisses, and now we email all the time. And she's, in the General Assembly. So I had totally forgotten about that. So you never know who you know or who knows who. Like
Right.
Dan said, it's only 2 degrees of separation. So you may see someone who lived in another town or where you used to live or whatever, and you do make new friends. So, come on aboard.
Yeah. Yeah, Dan.
Yeah, and I think one of the things to recognize is that AARP has a paid staff of 5 people in the state of Rhode Island. And the volunteers outnumber the paid staff by more than 10 to 1, sometimes like 20 to 1. And each of the teams that we talked about before is led by a volunteer. So we have a team lead, sometimes 2 team leads co-team leads on these teams. And we work very, very well with the staff, obviously, but we need volunteers in these teams in order to be more and more effective. And I think that's real important. And like Shirley said, the thing is, as you do these, you get to know people a little bit more. So a few years ago, when I testified on prescription drug prices, I met Senator DePalma. And about a month ago, they had a senior coalition meeting in Rhode Island, and Senator DePalma was there. And he kind of remembered me at the meeting, and he said, I want to push some more prescription drug pricing things through in the state, because the federal program, while it's been passed and has been good, it's going to take a little while for all those changes to cycle through. And he would like to work with AARP on something like that. So I mentioned that to Matt, and we're going to kind of pursue that and figure out what we do. So I think those contacts you make are really important. And it doesn't matter, like initially I didn't know anybody in the State House at all, none of the representatives and stuff. But over time, I've kind of learned who the players are. I don't know anywhere near like what Matt knows, or like Heidi. Heidi's amazing.
Yeah.
But
yeah, she is.
But I'm getting to know them, and more importantly, I'm getting to know how to find out who the key players are through Matt and others. And it's nice to be able to go there and make an impact.
Yeah, it's so true. And I just want to point out that, yeah, we only have 5 paid staff here in Rhode Island, but Rhode Island has made national notice. National AARP wants to know how Rhode Island gets everything it gets done with only 5 paid staff. So, we have caught the eye of national, and that's because of our 5 paid staff, with Catherine at the helm and Matt and all the others that are there, that we should be very impressed with the AARP that we have here in Rhode Island. We can't let that go aside and unnoticed, because without the 5 paid staff, all of these volunteers wouldn't be where they are. So they do a great job. So get on board and be part of it. Be part of the progress going forward, because at some point you're going to be there and we're going to need your voice. So learn now. So when you're ready to get there, we'll get there. As we're nearing the end of the hour, I would love everybody to give their final thoughts on why people should get involved. And at the end, give your email or telephone number or whatever contact information you want to get. Matt, we'll start with you.
I would just say get involved, because like I said, it's important to show up, and you're going to get to hang out with a lot of great people, meet a lot of great people, learn a lot about a lot of different issues. I'm constantly learning. Every bill we pick up is an education in a new issue. So and you get to hear a lot of different perspectives. It's just a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun with it. If you just want to keep track online, you can find updates at www.aarp.org/RI notes. If you want to see some of the, like Dan had mentioned, education, just as important as bills, as pushing a bill through testimony, is educating people on an issue like accessory dwelling units, where they may not know the perspectives from the older population on how they can benefit them. So a lot of it has to do with education as well. And if you want to see some of the past educational stuff and other events, like I think Dan or Shirley had mentioned, was AARP.org/RI replays. You can see tons and tons of hours worth of video and stuff from there. Lastly, I want to give a shout out to our community challenge grants. We hand out community challenge grants in the state every single year. Just this year, we had 4 amazing grantees. Recently, we just put videos on our Facebook page. Has all 4 of them. They each have their own video, amazingly well produced. We have an amazing director of communications, John Martin, and Darlene Rezzarossi, who definitely runs that program from within the state. But yeah, just check those out too on our Facebook page. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook. I think we're on Instagram now too. John got us there. Or you can, email me with any questions about the advocacy, or if you want to talk about an issue. If you want to talk about an issue that you're facing or that you think the state should be addressing, it's mnetto@aarp.org. MNETTO@aarp.org.
Awesome. Shirley, you want to give us your 1-minute wrap up of why people should get involved?
Well, it's a lot of fun. And really, you do it because you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, you don't come back. But there are so many things I've managed to improve my skills. I've learned so many things, but again, it's fun offering these cooking programs and everything else to people. And I've made friends across the country through this, and we chat during some of the programs, and we have people who come on the cooking and the dance programs from Hawaii and Alaska and Puerto Rico and everywhere in between. And so we've started to recognize a lot of these names, and they comment, I comment. So again, www.aarp.org/RI replays. Or if you want to look at the virtual community center, www.aarp.org/VCC. There's so much out there. And again, even if it's a matter of you learning how to cook or garden. And if you have any questions, please email me at Harris, HARRISS 668@gmail.com. And Tina, thank you so much for what you do.
Oh, thank you. And Dan, your 1-minute wrap up.
Well, I can't say anything more than it's a lot of fun, and I feel like we make an impact. We meet new people. When I first joined, one of the fun things I did was going to the events where you just manned the tables, and usually had 2 or 3 of us at a table. We pass out information. We talk to people coming by about what AARP is doing. We find out what they think about their communities, and that gives us information on things to work on, which have formulated some of the programs we do. Matt mentioned the community grant program. I mentioned those earlier. each of those things, the grants, I forget how many we had. I think we might have had 25 or 30 come in requests. And teams of volunteers look at those, decide which ones make the most sense to us and recommend those to the state organization, which passed to the national. And normally we get one approved. This year, I think Matt said we got 4 of them approved, which are all great. Some provided communities with a greater area to grow vegetables and herbs that were endemic to where they came from, where these people came from foreign countries. They could grow it, and they put a cookbook together of this. So that's coming out, I think, this next year. Another one was a parking area that we converted, that the community wanted to convert into like a bike lane to connect 2 diverse parts of the community together and see if that would work. It was a 1-week thing, and we funded that. So there's a lot of good stuff you can get involved with. And I think the most important thing Shirley said is you're not going to do it unless you're having fun. And we do have a good organization. We have a lot of good dialogue, a lot of good laughs. So again, to get in touch with me, it's dliparini52@yahoo.com.
And if you forget all of their emails and don't remember how to get in touch with them, because I put all the links in the chat, you can always get in touch with me, because they're not only my coworkers and, cohorts and, partners in crime when we head up to the State House, but they're also my friends. So I can put you in touch with every single one of them. So if you forget all of their emails, just text me and I will get all of that information out to you. Thank you guys all so much for joining us tonight and telling everybody all about AARP advocacy. We're going to have a ton of people at our New Year's 10 o'clock Monday morning meetings. So I'm really excited looking for that. And I want to wish you all a happy holiday. So thank you for taking the time.
Happy holidays, Tina.
Happy
Thank
holidays.
you.
Yes,
Thank you.
happy holidays,
Thank you.
everyone.
Oh, thank you. And I want to invite everybody here next week, after you had all of your ham and whatever dinner that you have and your wonderful holiday with your family and friends. Join us back here next Wednesday. We have another great show for you to finish out 2022, to start in our new programming in 2023. So happy holidays all. And as I always say, don't just sit there. Make a difference, everyone. Have a good night.